the Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They pay more extra places than any other bookie.
Hello one and all, and welcome to this Racing Post Monday postcast, looking back at a spectacular weekend of action and looking forward at the same time, because if we look back, we look forward. It's what we do on Mondays. And doing it on this Monday, I'm joined in the RPTV studio by Nick Watts, on the line by our Irish editor, Richard Forrestal, and on the line as well with our sponsors, Mr. Paddy Power. Hello one and all.
Good morning.
Evening, Lee.
So I'd say we look back, but we look forward. And when we're looking back on the Irish Champion Stakes, and of course on the Shanty action, and on Doncaster, but primarily Ireland in France, we're looking forward to the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. So to start us off, Paddy, give us the Arc betting as we stand now.
Yeah, so it's all changed after the weekend, I guess. So, well, Postpone's still at the top of the pile. He's 7-2 favourite. Then you got La Cressonnière, which is the stable companion of the Irish Champions Stakes, where Almanzor is 6-1. Or sorry, Almanzor is in there 5-1 first. Then La Cressonnière 6-1. Makahiki 9-1. Then 10-1 Found on Harzand. Forgot about Minding. She's 8-1. And it's 16-1 Bardos.
Okay, Richard, then, so you obviously were there at Leopardstown for this. I mean, I don't recall a race in Europe as good as that outside of the Arc, the Irish Champion. It was a fantastic running.
Yeah, it was exceptional. I think the interesting to come out of it, I suppose, is the fact that Almanzor has the same connections as La Cressonnière, and that's going to confuse matters, I think, over the next few weeks. I just rewatched it this morning, and to see the amount of speed he showed in the straight, like he travelled and quickened so impressively. He looks like one of the best 3-year-olds around by some way at the moment, I suppose you could say. And naturally, you'd like to see him in the best race traditionally, which is of course the Arc. But whether that's going to happen with La Cressonnière, which seems to be their supposedly, their number one for the Arc, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
It is, and of course she has a big chance as well, based on her form in the big 3-hour Fullies races this year.
Yeah, form is outstanding. She beaten Left Hand, of course, which won the Vermeil yesterday.
Yeah.
Won it well, and La Cressonnière seemed to beat her with some authority in the Diane. And she has also beaten Quima earlier on the year. So I was looking at it this morning, thinking 7-1 about La Cressonnière is big, but I mean, I'd love to see Almanzor in there, but whether that'll happen or not, I think there seems to be a suggestion that they're leaning towards the Champion Stakes already, which would be a pity, because you would love to see such an outstanding 3-year-old in the Arc. And that's not to take from the Champion Stakes at all. It's a great race in its own right, but I suppose the Arc is the best. We like to think of it as the best middle distance race in Europe, and beyond that maybe, and you'd love to see him in there.
Nick, we would love to see him in there, but the way Jean-Claude Rouget is talking, it doesn't sound as if he wants the horse to run in the Arc.
No, they've mentioned Ascot, haven't they?
Yeah.
And you can kind of understand that. Well, from a clinical perspective, the fact that he's so good at 1 mile and 2, and it obviously seems to suit him so well. They're going to go down that path, and they've, like Richard just said, we've got another one in the stable who can go for the Arc. But in terms of who would be happiest, coming out of Saturdays and Sundays racing, it probably would be Rouget, who's got Le Cressonnière in her stable, and Roger Varian, who trains Postponed, because as competitive and compelling as the racing was at the weekend, we had a few disappointments like Harzand. Minding, I don't know whether she furthered her course particularly with her run, although it wasn't a terrible run by any means. And Almanzor might not even go to the Arc. So, Roger Varian and Postponed, I think, will probably be, relatively happy with what they saw at the weekend. And for me, he's still the one they will have to beat in Paris.
I'd agree. Richard, what did you make of Minding's run?
Look, it wasn't ideal. She didn't get the clearest passage, but if you watch the race again, she got her gap before Almanzor got his. So she was out in plenty time, but he was just a far better horse on the day. The 3-year-olds are a decent crop. There's a bit of depth to them, but I don't think there's any superstar there. I think that was pretty much confirmed on Saturday, with Found filling the runner-up berth as well. Harzand, apparently was struck into, you would have worried. Look, when the rain was, we had a lot of rain around the country here on Friday, and where I was at home in Cork on the day, it was pouring down all day, and I thought, even over 10 furlongs, if they got what we got down there, that he would have a chance. But Leopardstown were lucky, really. They missed it, and it was good ground. And 10 furlongs on good ground was probably always going to expose him, regardless of whether he got struck into or not. Dermot Weld, of course, is a great man at bringing a horse back like that. He did it with Fascinating Rock last year for the Champion Stakes. He's patient. He gets them back. But the 3-year-olds in general I think they're good. It was the same with the Milers, your Galileo Golds and your Gurkhas and so on. They're good, solid crop of 3-year-olds without any superstar being in there maybe. And Fascinating Rock is the other one, of course. But like, it's wide open, isn't it? I mean, when you're talking about Fascinating Rock, and you've got Postponed, who I know has developed into a very good horse, I should say. But, you know, there is no real superstar in there, as far as I can see, apart from the possibility of Almanzor, which they obviously have thought about maybe going for the Champion Stakes instead. But like you were talking about Le Cressonnière there, Nick, I mean, she has never run any further than 10 furlongs either. Is it an absolute given that she will stay at the 12 furlong trip?
Paddy, is it a given?
No, it's not a given. I think that's what we saw in the Champion Stakes for me. That was a brilliant race. I thought the winner obviously was the best horse in the race on the day, and probably the best horse over a mile and 2, but a mile and a half might be a different proposition, definitely. I think I agree. I think Postponed. I think Roger Varian's going to be the happiest man after this. Thought Mindon ran okay. I don't think it takes away too much for her. She just didn't have the turn of foot. It was funny. It's pretty annoying actually I got a lift the races from my own man, who's obviously forgotten more about racing than I'll ever know. But he was just saying, "Oh, what are you backing in the big race?" That I'll probably back Minding. And he goes, I think she'd be tapped for toe by one of the mile and 2 horse. He said, I'm keeping that Almanzor on my side. And of course I completely ignored him, but there you go. I'll never learn.
Never learn.
The thing about the arc for her then though, Paddy, like, is a mile and 4 in possibly deep ground. Like, I mean, you'd be wondering whether that'd be ideal for her either, like, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think, and you know what, it's like just on Harzand, I didn't fancy Harzand because of the trip. Because I thought like it needed to be very soft, like you were saying, Richard. But I mean, we didn't get much rain in Dublin, and if Harzand does come back, and I mean, you could be back in anti-post now at 10s because he, you know, possibly he's unlikely, or we don't know how bad his little knock is. But if he does come back, there was a wobble before the Derby and everything, wasn't there? Like if he does come back, he's 10-1. I'd still be giving him plenty of credit, and I'd still be probably a backer of him on the day if the ground was soft on that.
Nick, are we forgetting Found as well? I mean, she's run a hell of a good race under Frank. I know she keeps finishing second, but there doesn't appear to be anything ungenuine about her. She's just running really solid races. And Aidan said all through the summer that the race they're aiming her at is the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, and she'd be a player, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she would be, and yeah, I mean, you can crab her if you like, but like you said, she hasn't done anything wrong. She's certainly not ungenuine. She runs her heart out every time, and she's done it again here, and just found one too good. But I mean, she got closer to Almanzor than anything else managed, and it was another fantastic run, and every reason to go there. I suppose in some ways you'd be slightly not disappointed, but you know, we've been spoilt in the Arc in recent years, haven't we, with horses like Trev and the like, and I suppose horses with a string of 2s next to their name, you'd be hoping that maybe an Almanzor, if he went, or La Cressonnière would prove to be superior, but she's certainly solid, and yeah, you can't dismiss her from calculations at all. Unlike Order St George, who
I was going to say,
absolutely devastated. He got beat yesterday, not because of, you know, he's 7-1 on. I just thought, you know, it's a penalty kick, and looking forward to seeing him win comfortably. And then Aidan saying he's going to Chantilly, but all plans on hold for him now. I suppose that was very disappointing.
Team Ireland, what do we make of Order of St George? Oh, that was a noise.
Yeah, well, look, a bit like US Army Ranger, he got there, and like I know some people were critical of Ryan Moore after it, but like he was never that far away from the leader. I know Frankie dictated it beautifully, and the best place to be in a race like that is in front where you can dictate it. But Ryan was never out of his ground on him, and he got there, I felt, and I thought I didn't like the way I thought he looked like he lugged in a bit at the end.
He did, yeah.
I didn't like the look of it, and I've had the same view on US Army Ranger since Chester. Now, obviously, Order St George hasn't been doing it all along, but I mean, you know, he got into a fight and he didn't come out the other side of it. So, the Arc, I wouldn't be going near him for an Arc, certainly. I never would a stayer, like, and that, you know, that's certainly the case after Sunday.
I don't know if you were there, Richard, yesterday, but the really weird thing about, I thought yesterday, but I don't know whether it's just to rip up the results from yesterday, because it was ridiculously windy. Like, seriously, it was, and it's blown straight across the track, kind of half into their face, half across the track. Like, even I bought all the kids fish and chips, and they blew everywhere, and there was tears. It was shocking, but
even the fish.
Even the fish, it was gone. Yeah, the whole thing, and the battered fish
quite heavy.
Fine.
Batter weighs down fish.
That's the thing. I mean, I think we probably should measure the wind by the batter, but it's so I don't know whether, because you just don't know whether if some horses react badly to that or not. Like, so it could have had an impact on all the jollies getting beat.
It reminded me a bit of Camelot's Ledger. Do you remember when Joseph got a bit of stick for staying out of his ground? Like, but I mean, he didn't have him far out of his ground either, same as Ryan didn't. And you're kind of, they're entitled to expect horses that are clearly inferior to them to come back at some stage. Now, they have to factor in the pace of the race and so on, and maybe they both came up short in those instances. But I think it would be harsh to be very critical of them, because the Wicklow Brave and the horse that beat Camelot in the Ledger back along, his name escapes me. They were before the
Enke,
race.
wasn't it? Enke or something?
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected them to get near them, like. So I think it's.
And is there any chance that he would have just been going in there thinking he's a penalty kick, so might leave a bit of work on, like, or?
I don't think, he was only ever four or five lengths at the most behind him. I didn't think he had him out of his ground at all. And I know some people did, but I think the horse got there, same as US Army Ranger has got there a few times, and didn't go through with it for whatever reason. No, he got very hot. He was very hot. Maybe he wasn't quite himself, but he just didn't go through with it on the day for me. He might not have still won, but
the other thing is just one last thing. All the O'Brien, not all of them, but a lot of the O'Brien horses the weekend kind of maybe didn't. You'd expect them to walk away with 6 or 7 wins, wouldn't you? Some of them were just unlucky, but it wasn't the benefit that we thought of.
I think he was 9-1 to win the 5 Group 1s over the weekend. And,
It wasn't, by his own standards, it wasn't a stellar weekend. Rich, we're going to go to Sean T in a second, but just before we do, just wrapping up Irish Champions Weekend, you made the point in your piece in the Racing Post today that you would flip around the Leopardstown Curragh cards.
Yeah, and I don't claim originality for that idea, by the way. It's, some people have been suggesting it over the past couple of years, but it's backwards. It really is. I mean, the Champion Stakes is the marquee event. You want to be building up to that throughout the weekend, and as it is at the moment, the Curragh, there's a real kind of anti-climax about it. They have a much smaller crowd, and unfortunately the crowd has gone down and down for the last couple of years, which is something they need to look at as well. So they need to do something themselves to revitalise the Sunday of it, the Curragh card, I should say. So what I would be looking at is getting your Curragh on the Saturday night and build up all weekend. Imagine if you were building all weekend up to that race that we had on Saturday evening. All the stars, they do it in the Breeders' Cup, they do it in the Prix de l'Arc, they do it at Cheltenham up to the Gold Cup. You look at any big boxing night, they don't put the big fight on first, do they? It makes sense to flip it around and to build up to it all weekend and have a grand finale.
And given it makes sense, and given it's so obvious, why aren't they doing it?
I wish I knew. I don't know. But look, I suppose they recently they went with the Irish Champion Stakes on the Saturday evening before the Irish Champions Weekend initiative started, and I suppose they kept going with that. And the Curragh traditionally would have always been a Sunday afternoon gig. But they have had a few years now of this initiative. They've tried it. It's a great weekend racing. And I wouldn't be too critical of it at all. I think it's a brilliant initiative. But it could do with being tweaked to take it to the next level, because at the moment it is still, as I said in the piece, it's very peripheral in the broader sporting terms. It doesn't get the mileage you would like it to get in the news, on the television or the radio or whatever. It's still rather peripheral, and they need to try and do something to take it to the next level. Because if this is as good as it gets, then you'd be disappointed. There was 23,000 over the 2 days. You'd like to get a lot more people going to this event over the next few years.
So if we're talking about peripheral, then horse racing in France is peripheral to French racing culture. And I don't imagine there would have been that many people at Chantilly yesterday for the Art Trials card, Nick. And I've got to say, I can't remember a less inspiring Art Trials card. There wasn't really much in there, was there, apart from the Japanese horse?
No, he was the main point of interest, wasn't he? And he got the job done without blowing you away, although you've got to remember it's only a trial. I've been sucked into these Japanese horses in the past. They never quite got over the line in the Arc, have they? I think they will one day. Whether this is the horse to do it, I'm not quite sure. But just following on as well, what you said, about Irish Champions Weekend. Yeah. I was watching both in the office yesterday, and it's disappointing to see the Vermeil going off at the same time as the race at the Curragh. Yeah. You thought there might be a bit more coordination between Ireland and France, so we could get a good split between the two events going on. But as I said at the beginning, I think Roger Varian would have viewed all this action at the weekend and thought, well, we haven't really got anything to be scared of here. And I thought that was particularly the case in France.
Okay, guys, we're just going to wrap up this first half. Quickly went to break, and just want a one-word answer from all of you. Who wins the Arc? Although if your horse has more than one name, one word, you can say La Cressonnière, because that would be silly otherwise. Paddy?
La Cressonnière.
Richard?
Almanzor, but obviously he needs to run it.
Was that a moment of hesitation there? You weren't sure, were you?
Harzand, I like Harzand if he came up soft and he was okay, but for me Almanzor is the best horse around. Will he run in it? I don't know.
And Mr. Watts, we know your answer.
Postponed.
Okay, this now is a commercial break.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP5 at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Congratulations on rejoining this Racing Post Weekend Review postcast. Looking now primarily at the 2-year-old action we had over the weekend. Some really good contests, particularly, of course, in Ireland. Richard, Churchill was the one that stood out by miles for me. Would that be the same with you?
Yeah, he really is exciting, isn't he? He reminds you a bit of your Hawkwings and your High Chaparrals. He just has so much quality oozing out of him. He still looks green. He looks far from the finished article, despite the fact that he's had a few runs. And he's by the right sire. He's by Galileo. I suppose the only other 2-year-old that you would put in the same sort of league is Caravaggio. And he's Scat Daddy, isn't he? And I mean, you'd be looking at one and the other and you'd be thinking, well, at least you know that Churchill is going to train on properly. There's nothing not to like about him. I think he'll have plenty of scope for improvement next year. I know he's short enough for the Guineas and I wouldn't be backing him at those odds or anything, but I'd like to think that he could be a proper 3-year-old next year. And the fact that he beat Memas as comprehensively as he did, which ties in with Caravaggio, he beat him by nearly 5 lengths in the end. I'd be mad about him, absolutely mad about him, yeah.
Paddy, what price for the Guineas?
Yeah, he's only 5-2 with us for the Guineas, which is tight enough. But you would think that Caravaggio, they've said we're big about Caravaggio because they've been kind of on the record saying he's unlikely to go the Guineas route. But Churchill looks like he loved every yard of the 7 furlong. So now Memas mightn't have quite got home, but I think and I said it earlier about the wind. The wind was ridiculous. So especially for a young horse to deal with that and going about his business as well as he did, I think I was really really impressed. There's nothing. If you think about Blue Point being third favourite in the Guineas now, you'd say Churchill. You'd definitely have him over Blue Point at the moment.
Nick, would you love him as much as Richard?
Yeah, no, I do like him. It's fun. Before I came on, I was just looking at winners of the Chesham because I had in the back of my mind that winners of the Chesham aren't traditionally very good, and it's not a particularly strong race at Ascot. But we might be looking at a different beast here. The history of the race hasn't turned over any really, really top 3-year-olds, but Churchill looks like he could break the mould. He looks very professional, very solid. And I think there's more to come from him. So, yeah, he's justifiably ahead of the market, and he's the one that's impressed me most.
And Nick, staying with you, the other weekend big 2-year-old contest, did anything come out of those that impressed you?
I thought Rivet was quite good at Doncaster. I was quite impressed with Rivet. I know William Haggis wasn't, but I thought it was quite a good display from him. And took ages to pull the horse up. I don't know if you watched the race or watched the aftermath of it, but it took him a long time to pull up. I think the horse had a lot left in the tank. He's quite promising. And I'd be interested to see what the Irish guys thought of. There was a 50-1 stunner in the first race on Saturday, trained by David Watchman, which is quite interesting because he's retiring, called Rain Goddess, first time out. Will be going to Aiden's, I would imagine, because it's owned by the Magnias. It's got no fancy entries and obviously caught them by surprise a little. I thought he won very, very well. Looks a good filly. Richard, impressed?
Yeah, I'd say it did catch them by surprise. I was actually talking to just someone who'd kind of be familiar with the stable earlier on in the week and asking him if, David might bow out with a big winner on Champions Weekend, and, there was a kind of shrug of the shoulders of say, I don't think so, and lo and behold, he goes and wins the first at 50-1. She looks smart, didn't she? And she's beautifully bred. Suffice to say, Aidan will be glad to have her next year, I'd say. There was another one in that race actually. Before just on that race, Anine, sister to Autad, who got shuffled back earlier on, and for a 2-year-old first time out can be hard to come back, but she caught the eye down the inner.
Just on those 2-year-old races, particularly at the Cur on Sunday, the Group 1s. Was it just a particularly bad year in terms of opposition to Aidan? You looked at the national stakes, the Moyglare, only 3 other Irish trainers were represented, and one of them was Aidan's son, who actually won the race. Yeah.
Look, this is a thing that you could talk all day about, just the lack of depth to certain areas of the game, especially at the top level on the flat and over jumps. But on one hand, it's great to see Joseph getting up and running. Fair play to him, he does really well. He's a very shrewd operator, I think we can say that already. But it's funny, you look at, there was a great variety to the weekend, and I don't want to be in any way negative about it. We had 14 different trainers, but it is funny when you look at 14 different winning trainers, I should say. When you look at the new Group 1 winning trainers, one was Joseph O'Brien, Aidan's son, and the other, of course, was Willie Mullins, who's not unfamiliar with winning top-level races. So the more things change, the more they stay the same in some ways.
Yep, a motto for life, that as well. Guys, before we leave the weekend, or we probably look at Doncaster and the St Ledger. Anything else that caught your eye that you want to mention? Speak now or forever hold your peace. 3, 2, 1, commercial break.
Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP5 at one meeting every day this month. Paddy Power, you're welcome. Max free bet £25, 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly.
Welcome back, guys and gals. Now, we don't like to blow our own trumpets, but we have a particularly loud trumpet to blow right now. Cue trumpet blower Paul Keeley.
I backed Harbour Law each way at a big price. Now, he's got absolutely zero chance on form overall, but he's a tough stayer who's improved every time he's run. I think he'll run his race. I think he'll beat more than beat him. He'll definitely stay and might just cause a surprise.
Now, the cynics will be saying, Paul Keeley recorded that an hour ago, didn't he? Well, he didn't do. That was in Friday's preview postcast. Nick Watts, big up your colleague there. That was impressive, wasn't it?
It was a stunning piece of tipping, yeah, and well found by Paul. With Idaho in the race, he would have been the obvious one, and it took some guts to put up Harbour Law. And it was a great success for an unfashionable trainer. Funnily enough, this is going to sound like a bit of after timing as well, but a couple of months ago I was looking at the ledger and trying to fish out a bit of value, and there's two horses that sprung to mind, and they both ran in the Queen's Vase. One was Harbour Law,
right.
One was Twilight Payment, trained by Jim Bolger. I went down the Twilight Payment route, and Jim very kindly withdrew him last week, having left him in the race on Monday, and then of course Harbour Law went and won. But there we go, that's the way it goes. Fantastic, hats off to Paul. It was a great win.
It's not like Jim Bolger causing misery to a Racing Post journey. That would never happen, would it?
Yeah, it was quite funny. Last Monday he was in the entries, he was in the 5-day decks, and then Jim about 20 minutes later said he's not going to run. So hopes were raised and then dashed in a very short space of time.
Lads, watching the St Ledger from Leopardstown, what it was a heck of a dramatic race. That moment when Idaho came down, I was talking to Kevin Buckley, Coolmore's British rep, and he was just saying gobsmacked. Shaman was saying the horse was still cruising. Would Idaho have gone on to win the Ledger?
You'd imagine so, yeah. I mean, he looked to be doing everything fine, didn't he? And when you see the Houses of Parliament kind of fighting it out there, you'd imagine that he would be far better horse than him.
But even the race, when you're watching it, obviously there's a huge groan, or big, and a thing from all the punters. But at the same time, you're watching the race.
Fall.
It was a bad fall, and you're kind of, geez, I hope he's all right and all that. But then you're watching it, and you kind of felt like that. As soon as he fell, obviously the race changed, but all the other jockeys suddenly went, Jesus, we've a chance here. Do you know what I mean? And it was kind of like then the race began, and Ventura, Storm and House of Parliament probably just went and cut each other's throats just a little bit to Harbour Law's benefit. But you'd have to think that the way he was travelling in Idaho, that he I don't know, was it early? I mean, I don't know, I've never ridden in a race in my life, but was it early that he was trying to pull him out? Because it's a long way home at Doncaster. He wasn't in trouble, boxed in there. So maybe, if he could do it again, he'd obviously wait a few strides. But it was, it was really weird one.
Yeah, I had to laugh. 20 years ago, when I was starting out as an amateur, there was a few of us kind of 7-pound claimers getting going, and one of them was Jim Crowley, and another one was Ian Mongan. And Ian actually rode his first winner on I got a fall schooling one morning and couldn't pick up a ride on a horse called Whipper's Delight at Plumpton, and Ian stepped in and won on the horse, and it was his first winner that got him going, and they both ended up going on the flat route, of course, and Jim is heading for the title all of a sudden, and Ian and his wife Laura have just won a St Ledger, so we all know who fared best out of that trio anyway.
Well, it's your turn next. Your turn next.
Richard, you rode Whipper's Delight?
No, I didn't. I was declared to ride him, and
I remember Whipper's Delight.
Do you remember him? He was a lovely old horse. Yeah,
yeah,
I was disappointed. I got a fall in Lambourne that morning schooling, and I wasn't able to go, and they got Ian to ride him, and it was his first winner. So I always remember him getting a bit of a pick me up off it. But it's great to see them. Great story. Great to see a small stable win a classic.
Yeah.
Super stuff altogether.
And will he be a cup horse next year, a contender for the Ascot Gold or the Gold Cup? I hate it when it's called the Ascot Gold Cup. It's the Gold Cup. Will he be a contender for that?
Yeah, you'd imagine so. I think they'd go up in trip rather than come back in trip, I would say. And he's already ran in the Queen's Vase, as I mentioned earlier, and ran really well in that too. So you'd expect cup trips to suit him. Hopefully they can keep hold of him. They were talking yesterday, they've turned down a number of offers for him already. They'll probably get a few more after this. So it'd be nice to see them carry on with him and carry on the fairy tale.
Paddy, have you guys got a price about Harbour Law for the Gold Cup next year?
I surely do, yeah, but
it's either that or the 3 miler at Cheltenham, isn't it?
Oh,
Ooh, now you're talking. Yeah, you never
That was a
know.
harsh comment from
He's going to be a big price anyway. I can't start trying to find him here. What I'm trying to find, I would say he's going to be about 25 to 1 or something like
20.
that.
I mean, you can say it if you're happy with 25 to 1. Should we just say 25 to 1?
Yeah, sure. We'll just say that for the moment. I can't even find the
Paddy Power going 25 to 1. Harbour
That's
Law.
me personally now, you know.
No, you can't backtrack now. You've gone and said it, Paddy.
I know.
Come on.
At least there's no one else listening. It's just us lads, isn't it? So it's grand.
There's squillions out there.
I know.
This is like the Archers murder trial.
I
This
can't
is.
find the price there. I don't know if we even have the price, but there you go.
Okay. Right. So have you got a price on the Air Gold Cup?
We do have price in the Air
Go
Gold
on.
Cup.
Run
I
through
certainly
them.
do.
Yep.
Right. Okay. The favourite is where is it going? I have to find them here now. Here, I'm very prepared today, as you can tell. I was actually sitting there enjoying listening to Richard's story about not about his fall at Lambert, but how that all
It
turned
was
out.
good, wasn't it?
But Growl,
it's like watching
sorry.
Parkinson. You know, when
Exactly.
Peter Ustinov used to run off with an anecdote, or Kenneth Williams. You're Kenneth Williams, Richard.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right, Paddy.
Anyway, Growl is the favourite. Growl is the favourite, and he's going to be about 6 to 1 because the decks are just coming in as we speak, aren't they, at the moment? So
The 5-day forfeits.
The 5-day forfeits, yeah. So he's going to be about 6 to 1 favourite. You're going to have. Sorry, I haven't seen the fours. I'm assuming these are all going. I think I'm looking at the updated ones now. You're looking at about 12 to 1. Name what you like. Orion's Bow is in there at the same price. Happy Prince is going to be a 14 to 1 shot, along with the Certificate. And then probably 16 to 1 a bigger Magnus Magazine and Baccarat and a few others like that. So it's as open as you'd expect, but Growl kind of head and shoulders half the price of the next best in the betting.
And do you fancy him?
I think he's got a great chance. Yeah, I was wondering whether Toofy would run. Toofy's in there, but he's probably unlikely to get in. He'd be a big price. He's going to be like probably 16, 20 to 1 shot. So he ran well. I think he was 4th in it last year, and he's just kind of a horse. He's disappointed this season so far, but just if Robert Kell can get him back going, you never know.
Okay. Richard, I'm guessing that among your many busy tasks you have to do, you won't have looked at the Air Gold Cup as yet.
Sorry, Lee, I nodded off there when you started talking about it.
That's fine. That's fine. You're thinking about that 3 mile hurdle again, aren't you? You're just, yeah. Nick.
No, it's a race. I think, if memory serves me right, it's never been won by an Irish horse. So
Right.
It would be nice to see that happen someday soon. But no, I haven't a clue.
Okay, now that was a nice thought. Nick, Air Gold Cup. Do a Paul Keeley. We want it to be at least 20 to 1, and it has to win.
It's not 20 to 1, but it's double figures. That'll do.
Oh,
won't it?
yeah.
You
We're
can give
not
me
proud.
that. Name it what you like. Coming here on a hat trick, won the Great St Wilfrid, and then followed up at York last time in the form of his life. I'd give him a good chance. Growl's the obvious one, but yeah, slightly bigger price, 12, 14 to 1. Name it what you like. I think it'll give a good run for his money.
Perfect. And boys over there, anything we're looking forward to particularly this week that you want to mention? Can be horse racing, can be.
Well, I'm going to
anything.
Laytown races for the first time ever, believe it or not, tomorrow. So I'm
Right.
looking forward to that. Yeah, we're going on a kind of a staff night out. A few of us here. Well, that's what we're calling it. We're just
Staff
going
night
out for
out,
a
so
few-
you-
we're just going for a few beers.
You're
to be
paying
honest,
for
to be
it then?
honest.
You're paying
yeah,
for it?
we're paying for it. Yeah, we're paying
That's
for it myself.
extremely
but,
generous.
It'll be so it should be good crack. I could do it in El Winner now after yesterday, I can tell you.
Jamie Osborne's there as well. I speak to him earlier on. He's got 5 or 6 runners. He's looking forward
He's
to
going
it.
to Laytown, is he?
Yeah, he's considering
deadly.
shorts
I'll
and
try and meet up
flip-flops.
with him because
Yeah.
Jamie's great crack. Yeah.
Yeah,
brilliant.
well, they're staying in Dublin tomorrow night as well, and
wow.
it
Okay,
could
that could be interesting.
it could be messy. Richard, you off to Laytown?
No, I'll give Laytown a miss, but I'll go to Listowel the following day,
Ah.
and on Thursday. Great festival down there, huge crowds they get every year. It's funny, like when you look at a festival like that with the tradition that it has, part of rural Ireland, if you like, they'll get 30,000 people down there on the Friday. They'll nearly get the same on the Wednesday, I'd say.
Amazing.
And you look at what we're struggling to get to a flat meeting with such good horses. It's funny in a way, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and who wins the national?
No idea. Ask me tomorrow.
Good man. Okay, well, with that, I think we can nicely bring this weekend review, week preview postcast to an end. I've been joined by Nick Watts, Richard Forrestal, Paddy Power. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, back on Friday with the preview, in which last week Paul Keeley gave you the St Ledger winner. This week it'll be the Air Gold Cup winner and much more. Until then, goodbye.
The Racing Postcast in association with Paddy Power. They pay more extra places than any other bookie.